Welcome to your mission, your money, what's really in your portfolio. This is the second webinar in a series that we have been super excited to run with GSIC. Sydney, England has done a phenomenal job putting this series together, talking about impact investing, talking about today what's in your portfolio, and a couple more sessions that are coming up, and we hope that you will all sign up for those. We're going to drop a bunch of links in the chat so that you can check out the session that we did 2 weeks ago focused on impact investing. And we will be sending out this recording along with a really cool sort of digest and with all of the resources, as well as like an executive summary, so that you guys have more tools at your disposal to ask these questions and feel comfortable asking these questions. Just quick question. How many of you folks are planning to go to the MIE conference in April? Tell us in the chat. If if this is something if you are going, that's great. It is a really action-packed event with folks from all over the country coming together to talk about aligning mission and investments. It is not the least expensive conference that you could choose to attend. And that's one of the reasons that we quickly put together this series, because we want to give you more knowledge and tools so that you can perhaps more strategically think about the sessions that you want to go to if you're going to that conference. And if this is a new event that you're seeing just now, we'll drop that in the chat so that you can check it out and hopefully join us. So today we are talking about your mission and your money and how you can examine whether they are aligned. I don't have to tell you about how much effort and care you all put into your grant making decisions and tracking. But there's another opportunity here, and that's the impact of your investments. As Sydney talked about 2 weeks ago, the Southeast lags the rest of the US in impact investing, and we hope you all are ready to change that. Everything starts with your mission. So we'd like everyone to take a minute to jot down 3 things that your foundation wants to be known for. These are the outcomes that your foundation exists to create. So if you wouldn't mind, another thing to put in the chat, we'd love to see those 3 things that you want to be known for in the chat. So maybe your priority is educational opportunity. Maybe it's improving community health, strengthening local economies, or biodiversity and the environment. Let's see those missions. Or write them down for yourself. Yes, thank you, Kelsey. I'm scrolling. Okay, wonderful. There we go. Bonnie, thank you. Improving access to healthcare, improving health disparities, and human-centered design around economic justice and healing. Love it. All right, so if everyone keeps adding those, here's something else for you to think about and stick in the chat so that we can reference it later. Now for your money. So we want you to write down as many of your foundation's investments as you can. For example, the stocks of individual companies or specific mutual funds or ETFs. You might be aware of some private investments too. And if you don't know the funds, but know some managers like Vanguard or Fidelity, you can jot those down. So let's see Who's the first one who can tell us an investment that your foundation owns? Oh, we're still getting some wonderful missions here, expanding access to mental health and education opportunities for Georgians, systems change, strengthening local communities. Bonnie, Dollar General. Thank you. And a Vanguard ETF. All right. So keep thinking about that. If you know what your foundation owns, that is great. And if you don't know, that's actually very common. So don't feel badly. You are not alone, and that's why you're here today. Um, so if you didn't know what your portfolio holds, or even if you did, um, how did that make you feel? What feelings came up as you thought about that? It's another thing for you to share in the chat, or if someone wants to unmute and tell us directly. Does
I'll just
anyone
say,
want to?
oh, I put the Dollar General in because somehow it got back into our portfolio.
Ah,
And we fund, healthy food access, healthy behaviors around nutrition. And then two of the counties that we operate in have put moratoriums on dollar stores coming into their community. And so this has been a regular conversation, I guess, over the last 5 years. So
do you have the ability to easily remove it now that it's popped in there again?
I think I do, but not without board approval. And
Okay.
so I just noticed it again in our list, and we'll be talking about it at the
Well,
investment committee, basically. So yeah.
that is fantastic that you are monitoring it so closely. It's so important because that does happen, and we're going to talk a little bit about mutual funds and how to look inside them and see what's lurking. Um, if you don't have the tools to see inside, then you're not going to know. Um, so, uh, so any thoughts on how you felt thinking about the investments versus the mission? Um, Maybe uncertain or uncomfortable or curious or heck, even annoyed. Or maybe you're feeling inspired or confident or seeing opportunity. Um, Maybe the next generation of family or board members are pushing to have this discussion, so you're eager to move on and learn more. In whatever case, you are not alone. So many foundations are in exactly the same position. Um, Most of our conversations about impact happen in this 5% that is focused on grant making. That's where foundations are focusing. Yet the other 95% of capital is also shaping the world through its investments. So, what's in there? What is inside this portfolio? Um, this is really a structural issue. In your board meetings, you probably talk a lot about grant making and the impact that you're achieving on that side of the of your team. But how much time do you talk about the impact of your investments? Probably very little, or you wouldn't be here today. Foundation culture doesn't often encourage curiosity about investments. There's just this divide between the grant making side and the investing side. So, we'd love for you right now to think about what the word stewardship means to you. Stewardship. And what if stewardship meant 100% mission alignment across all the assets you control? There are a lot of amazing foundations that are doing this, thinking this way. It's it's really an incredible movement and an opportunity to amplify the work that you live and breathe. Um, any thoughts? Any thoughts on that? Okay.
I would just add add that I think trustees think stewardship is making sure that the portfolio is around in 100 years.
Mhm.
And so, depending on where their training is, they may think they are doing good stewardship, even though there's not mission alignment with the investments.
That is absolutely the case. I'm sorry, was someone else jumping in? Okay. Thank you.
I
Thank you
was,
for that.
Nancy, I
Oh,
was just gonna tag on onto that. Thank you, Bonnie, for sharing that because I think I was just in a conversation yesterday with someone and we were talking about the word stewardship and just even kind of the different definitions or anchoring of where that word is. Um, and so I love that you brought that up. And I think we're in a movement where the conversations around these words and kind of pressure testing or understanding what that legacy definition is and then what that future state definition could be. Um, I think the proliferation of tools and capabilities and even the transparency that is being pushed for some of these companies allows allows those definitions to potentially evolve, right? So I just wanted to say plus one or affirm and just really appreciative of you bringing that up.
absolutely. Thanks, Kelsey. All right. So here's the question of the day. What's in there? What's in that portfolio? If you've asked before, or if you ask tomorrow, you might see a list of mutual funds or ticker symbols. You might see manager names like Vanguard or Fidelity, or private investment vehicles with potentially undecipherable names. But rarely will you see the companies inside those funds, let alone the impact that they're making on the world. So let's take a quick look inside the S&P 500, which I'll bet is part of all of your portfolios right now, because they're some of the biggest mutual funds in the world. So first is ExxonMobil. They knew in the 1960s that their fossil fuels were contributing to climate change, that they impact human health, and that um, those things or those emissions um, have an impact on our food and water, rising inequality, biodiversity, natural disasters, all of those things back in the 60s. And they are in the S&P 500. And if you are working on issues that where um, Exxon is sort of undermining your mission, then that might not be a company that you want in your portfolio. Um, Philip Morris also knew that their products were harmful for human health, but they went on a great ride in the 70s and 80s, and they are still around today. But if human health is important to your mission, then Philip Morris might not be a company that you want in your portfolio. And then here's Meta, Facebook, Instagram. Research shows documented harm to teen mental health and disproportionate impact on girls. So, what if your mission supports youth mental health or vulnerable teens, but what if 3% of your portfolio is in this company? Um, is that stewardship? I don't know. It's a question for you to think about. Here's Chevron. Same concerns as Exxon. We've got a lot of fossil fuel companies in the S&P 500. Then here's Lockheed Martin, which is a major weapons manufacturer. And I want to make this clear. What's important is that no company or investment is perfect. There aren't many saints in late stage capitalism. The point is that there are companies in your portfolio that may be undermining your mission, And you deserve to know and make informed and intentional choices. So now, if you or your advisor don't have access to professional tools that show all the holdings in your funds, there are tools that can give you insights like what you see on this slide. Here are the world's 20 largest mutual funds, and they are investing billions in businesses that, again, may not be consistent with your mission. Uh, the top of the list is the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index. It has net assets of over $2 trillion, the world's largest fund by far. There is a great chance that this is in your portfolio. Um, and here are some of the grades on issues ranging from fossil fuels, deforestation, prison and border control, guns, gender equality, diversity, racial justice, and more, as you can see across the top. The Vanguard S&P 500 index is right below it. Second largest mutual fund. You probably own it. And you'll see the same grades across the list. This whole chart is mostly C's and D's and F's. So, the world's largest mutual funds. This is often a moment that foundations realize, hey, this is probably something that we should look into. And this one may shock you. You may have added an ESG fund to your portfolio. It is probably not a saint on these issues either. Here are the 20 largest ESG funds in the world, and the Vanguard ESG US stock ETF is at number 2. I know, I know there's one person in the audience that owns it. We talked about ESG in the last session and how it's data about a company operates relative to its peer group. It's not an assessment of its sustainability or impact or whether they're in an industry that aligns with your mission. It's just data that compares them to within a very narrow window of peers. And hey, there are A's and B's in here, so this is better. It's better, but there are still more C's, D's, and F's than a lot of organizations may be comfortable with. And by the way, you see all the NAs under those last 4 categories. That is because the website, the organization that puts all of this data together is overhauling and launching a new tool. And so those records were not available when I put those graphs together on Sunday. Here is the tool I use to produce the reports. I started at fossilfreefunds.org. Fossilfreefunds.org. And its sister sites are all listed at the bottom, all created by the world's largest corporate watchdog, As You Sow. This is an amazing organization. This top-rated funds button that you see in the middle, you can click that and see funds that score really well on the issues that matter to you, better those than those we just took a look at. And you'll get full financial data along with a deep dive into the grades and the methodology. You can also use the search tool underneath for funds, and I'm going to show you what happens next. So you will be able to filter your search criteria. I know this is kind of grainy, but there are all sorts of you can filter by issue. You can do fund types, etc. And since you are starting on the Fossil Free Funds website, the results will first show you a kind of a deep dive into the key metrics related to fossil fuels. But you can also toggle this button here over to sustainability, and now you see the grades on all the other issues from deforestation free funds, from social justice funds, all those things across the bottom. So no matter where you start, you can toggle in and then click the fund itself here and dig really deep on all the issues. So it's a fantastic tool to uncover some of those things that might be hiding in your mutual funds. They rate more than 5,000 of them. And I don't know whether you can still do this. It was not up on Sunday when I was working on this. But for many years, you could download the raw Excel file of all the data. And it metrics galore, including the full financials. It's amazing. It might might slow down your computer because it is so very, very large. But it's valuable. I don't know if they are still making that available to the public. And they might have found a way to monetize it, but it's worth checking. So as I mentioned, these sites are all run by the world's largest corporate watchdog, as you saw. Their website is full of resources and education, biodiversity, circular economy, climate and energy, environmental health, social justice, toxic chocolate, and those are just the 6 hot button issues that I could fit onto this slide. And if you go to this page, you will see a lot more. For example, here are some of the issue-focused reports that you can download. Typically very focused on the problem, how companies contribute, and those that are leading on solutions. And there are lots of articles and videos, and it is a treasure trove of information. Okay, so that is one terrific tool for you. And when we put together the information packet that we'll send out in our follow-up email, we will send others when we we'll publish the recording with that, and we'll send that to you. But now we want to move on to a sample professional tool, one of many we use because at Brighter Investing, this is what we do day in and day out. It is not a side gig. It is our mission. And I realized I jumped into this presentation without even introducing ourselves, which is, sort of, well, I was just so excited to get started. So, by the way, my name is Nancy Sager, and I'm the president and co-founder of Brighter Investing. And I'm joined by Kelsey Russell, who has chimed in. She is our COO, and Gary Whitehurst is our CEO. You met both of them and me, along with Sydney England, at her presentation 2 weeks ago, and we will be back in another couple of weeks. But this is what Brighter exists to do, to work with foundations and nonprofits and everyday investors to align their missions with their values. So anyway, it's our mission. So we need pro tools like the super snazzy helmets on these football players. You need the right gear to do this work. So don't stand on the mound if you don't have a glove. And you really can't go to the Olympics if you don't have a swimsuit, right? I'm chuckling inside. I think that picture is pretty funny. I see some smiles. All right. A little levity is always good, right?
Everybody's like, please don't leave it on too long, Nancy.
I know.
Getting uncomfortable.
Tell the story about in business school, the slide I showed of Richard Branson running out of the ocean naked. It's the first picture on Google at the time that you would find, and it was emblematic of his leadership style. So we led with it. Anyhow, TMI, right? Okay, so here is one of our professional tools that can help you envision what's possible with your portfolio. This is a tool called Your Stake. It is available to registered investment advisors like us. And we have access to a huge data set that helps us evaluate investments in so many ways, including alignment with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which I plugged in across these couple of slides, um, along with concrete metrics on hundreds upon hundreds of impact areas. That's where you can get, we can show you raw data that directly ties to your mission. Today, we're looking at snippets from their portfolio comparison tool, which allows us to compare, say, your current portfolio and an improved portfolio that is focused on the metrics you care about. So this particular tool will show you, hey, in the better version of the portfolio, it has less of some of the bad things that you want to get away from, and more of the good things that you want to support. So that's why you see these bars, less and more. This is meant to show improvement on things like better health and a cleaner environment. Here's corporate accountability, like financial crimes and political spending, aka dark money. And then there's equal opportunity, covering a huge range of issues tied to education, gender equality, racial equality, discrimination, private prisons and migrant detention, and a lot more. So this is a great, great tool. We are in the home stretch now. So if your investment committee isn't yet thinking about this topic, here are some great questions for the group to ask. Number one, do we have a good picture of what we're invested in? Does our advisor have the tools to show us? And do we have a policy for how we want our capital to behave? There are ways to empower your investment committee to lean in with you, helping provide them with questions like this to spur curiosity. Ideally, your foundation's culture is to encourage curiosity, especially when it comes to stewarding capital that exists to fulfill a mission. And if you don't or can't question, then the financial services industry doesn't have to evolve to meet you where you are or where the next generation wants to go. So, what happens next? You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need a portfolio analysis or to know all the investment terminology or even the as you sow grades we showed earlier. It's about starting or continuing this conversation, the reason you came here today. So the next step is to bring a motion back to your board. Something like, I propose that we explore how our investment portfolio aligns with our mission and report back with findings. That's the goal. Just find out and go from there. So let's return to where we started. If you could think back to the 3 mission priorities that we talked about and chatted about earlier, think about those priorities and now imagine knowing exactly what your investments support. So knowing both of those things, you've got your mission priorities and what your investments are doing. What's a word that captures that feeling? How does that feel? You want to tell us in the chat or just unmute yourself and share how that feels? We would love to hear it. Megan's comment about toxic chocolate, we need a new one. Not exactly aligned, but could be worse. That's a great feeling. Could be it. And by the way, there is no perfect portfolio. And as Bonnie brought up, this is a constant process. The tools are changing every day. Your priorities are changing every day. The amount of data that's available for us to analyze is constantly shifting. The the world is changing at a very rapid pace. So we need to, it is not about picking a bunch of mutual funds and then putting it, on the back burner as you then focus on the 5%, because you deserve to be able to know what is happening with that 95% and that it is continually being cared for and nurtured and stewarded in a way that amplifies your mission rather than undermine it. All right. It's not a zero-sum game. Yep, that is exactly right, Megan. So hopefully, and let's see this one. Um, thank you. Thank you, Corey. Love that. I'm gonna love that too. Um, so hopefully, some positive things that might come out of this little exploration and you thinking about these things. We want you to feel more clarity, more confidence, alignment, perhaps integrity would be a good one. Because this is your mission, it's your money, and it has an impact. So I think this quote by Melinda French Gates is wonderful. It's about using whatever resources you have and applying them to improving the world. That's why you guys exist. And we are grateful for all of the wonderful work that you do. And we created this series to help give you some of those tools. And I can't believe it, but I am done with my slides ahead of schedule.
We've got time for questions, Nancy.
Yeah,
That was the
yes,
goal, so you did a great pacing.
it was the goal. So I'll keep the slides up in case anyone does anyone have any questions, first of all, that relate to the slides? You want to see something again and talk it through? Because then otherwise I will stop sharing and we can all view ourselves larger.
Nancy, this is Sydney, and maybe you can toggle back to one of the scorecard slides.
Uh-huh. The as you sow or the
The
your
your
stake.
stake, the
Yeah.
your stake. Because what I love about these frameworks is that there's a evidence base, right? Like they've done the hard job of actually establishing, and maybe can you go to the one that has the
You're
CEO
thinking of
pay?
the,
Yes.
yeah,
No, this one.
okay.
Because what I think is so useful about ESG or some of these other like sort of examination tools is it allows you to establish the relationship between CEO pay and wealth inequality, right?
Mhm.
But that that is very detailed. And so I'm curious, what are when you all start working with a foundation that maybe isn't at point A, right? They've started to have a conversation about what their values are. What are some different ways that those value statements come out to you all? Like, how do people start to express value statements? My question is really kind of getting to it doesn't have to look like this. Folks don't have to come to you with the full framework of this is what we're looking for, but they do have to have the top line, this is what we want more of or less of, or they have to have some initial way of articulating their values. So can you provide some examples or like just affirm that it can be kind of clunky to begin with, but it's still a useful directional, right? So I guess that's kind of I feel like it would be helpful to have an example or even just some advice for folks on what those statements can look like.
Yeah, I mean that is a great question, and yeah, nobody comes to us and is able to say, "Hey, I want less air pollution in minority communities." They because they don't know that that's an investable that's a metric that's even available to them. So typically the first exercises that we'll go through with a foundation or a nonprofit is to take their stated mission and priorities, and we'll also run an analysis of their grant making history over the last X number of years to tease out more of those details that they might not realize, and that can uncover some really important opportunities for them. They might not have done that. They may have done that, but it's it starts the conversation so that then we can go deeper and say, okay, let's let's talk about each one of these areas, and let's let's then map those to investable metrics. Where can they make an impact, or where can they improve versus what they're doing today? How could they be better stewards of that money? And so it's we lead that conversation, showing them how they could map their mission to those investable opportunities. And we provide training and education to bring the board along, to bring next generation family members along, to understand what's possible. That's kind of what this is all about, and to identify which impact metrics they expect from the portfolio, and to put together an IPS, the investment policy statement, which outlines how those investments are going to be allocated and managed to maintain fiduciary responsibility.
I was going to say, just to pipe in quickly, most organizations, they know what they care about clearly. They don't understand all the categories and all the different ways that they can sort, but that we start with education, and then we start to figure out what those issues are, and then we'll show them how it can translate out. And so the real work is behind the phenomenal data gathering and aggregation that these systems do, but they create such a more robust conversation. So a lot of people, they start with what they care about, and then it expands as they learn more about the areas that they can either invest in or to try to stay away from. So it is, it really is, it's a dynamic conversation as we start to go through it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you all for going a little bit more into that, and I just want to offer some perspective on how this actually, if you are at a foundation that is starting to have these conversations, or if you would like to be the person that champions this exploration that Nancy gave you what you could copy and paste into the agenda for your next board meeting. It's gonna come out clunky at the beginning, and also likely there are going to be differences of opinion about what you should be prioritizing. It's wonderful to have these frameworks and these taxonomies. However, prioritization is going to be, you have to express what you most want to be true about things. They're not zero-sum games, but as you are getting more and more precise about what your impact goals are, or how you express your mission and your values, oftentimes you do have to express priorities. And for many folks, that requires reconciling differences of opinion with within your decision-making bodies. They don't have to be antagonistic differences, but I just want to sort of uplift that it's not going to be perfect to begin with, and there is going to need it's a dialogue and it's iterative and it can challenge um, like existing investment culture, right? Oftentimes there's a very loud voice in an investment committee, or there's just like kind of norms that have been established over time. And this can be something that transforms those dynamics, but it can be helpful for it to be a facilitated process um, my opinion.
Yeah. One of the things that we like to do for clients that are having these conversations is to, set up a peer conversation so that they can learn from other groups that have gone through the process, what they did right, what they did wrong. In many cases, uh, an organization will just say, "Hey, we know this is important and we are going to dip our toe in the water." And that's a start. And that's awesome. Or they could say, "You know what, we want to go all in. We know this is important." And like you said, that first portfolio, I mean, we can build a really great portfolio around um, around your goals if you're ready to do that. But your group might not be ready to do that. So getting started is the key. Just get started and keep improving.
I have a question, guys. Great presentation.
Thank you.
I was curious for people that already have a financial advisor that's working, that's actively managing their foundation's portfolio. Most boards aren't looking to switch financial advisors on a regular basis. That gives them a lot of anxiety. How can y'all work with people that already have a financial advisor that may not want to switch, but who may not have the tools to do this in-house? Like, I know, like, for example, the folks that I work with, they use Parametric for like personal clients, but Parametric doesn't really make sense because it bundles a lot of the screening tools with like tax harvesting, which doesn't really apply to foundation assets. So if they don't have a good tool in-house, how can y'all work with existing financial partners without
Yeah.
having to necessarily make a switch?
That's a fabulous question. We've had cases where the foundation has asked us that same question, and we've put together like a consulting arrangement so that we can help to steer them. We can work with the existing advisor, but we're not managing the money, but we're providing all this expertise, on a, whether it's a short-term arrangement or longer term, we can design an engagement that works. And Kelsey wants to jump in here, so take it away, Kelsey.
I was trying to decide whether or not to bring this up because we didn't touch on private investments. And so, that Meg, we went back and forth on the content of this, of how do we keep it concise within the 45 minutes. But, that is a whole separate conversation. And we have had a lot of dynamic conversations around carve outs and how you think about an MRI, PRI carve out. And so how could we help consult and facilitate some of those? Because I think that allows you to be able to partner with the existing advisors and understand what that mission alignment, how that can expand. So, that's another avenue is, yes, the consulting on existing and kind of providing some of these tools in the backdrop of helping to continue to nudge that alignment on the public piece. But then too, and you and I have bonded many times over this mutual love of the private space. And I know this is where Sydney and I get jazzed. So I think that is and it's where the direct impact is, right? So, the public space is just hard, especially if you're passionate on the social issues, you're not going to find that direct impact there. And so we'll kind of touch on some of that, I think, in the final session. Ooh, and I just remembered I was supposed to I'll drop in the chat Sydney's next session link too, but the one after that we'll be leading is more around the portfolio implementation. So Meg, I'll make sure and put a footnote that we be sure to talk about some of the private layering into.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks for asking.
So we've now it's 12:17. So for those of you who have other things to do, lunch, go for it. But we can stick around a little longer if folks have more questions. We would love to answer them. Thank you, Patricia. I think you might be referring to the comic element. It's good to have a little bit of fun. All right. It seems like we are all heading to lunch. We'll say we will see you again soon, hopefully, and we will email you very soon with all of these links and details. And just know that there is a whole group here, GSIC, Writer, other partners that are in this ecosystem and that want to help mobilize more organizations, more capital in the Southeast to move into the solutions for these problems that we're facing. So thank you for the work that you're all doing and have a great one.
Thanks, Nancy. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.